great googly mooglies. It's finally here. Yes, that's right. The final episode, installment, video, whatever you want to call it, for the Shane Plays Out of the Abyss notes series, where I give my notes and thoughts and comments and whatnot on DMing my gaming group at my friendly local game store through Out of the Abyss, which is the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition Underdark adventure. This has been fun. We wrapped up about 3 months ago, but this is the last video. I would say this campaign took about a year and a half, or about a year and a half, although we did take a break in between part 1 and part 2 and play White Plume Mountain. And then after that, after we finished, we played a little bit of basic D&D, like basic expert, was it Beckme? Basic expert. I can't remember what the C is. Master, Immortal. Anyway, we played some Keep On in Borderlands, and we're actually a few sessions into a new campaign, which I will reveal at the end of this video. So there will be a new video series coming. Okay, so yes, it's been a long time. Let's just get that out of the way. One of the things that I've learned in life is that there are seasons in life, and I've really been trying to get to this video. I really have. However, there's a lot of content to get to, and there's other stuff going on in life, and I had to get other stuff out, my radio show, this, that, and the other. But the point is, it's finally here. So I've gotten a lot of comments and messages saying, hey, is it coming? Is it coming? Yes, it's here. So yay! And to celebrate, I'm wearing my 2017 Free RPG Day t-shirt, which I hardly ever wear this because I want to keep it in good shape for a long time. This isn't just a t-shirt you can go buy somewhere. Got it out of the Free RPG Day box from a local store owner who I was doing an event there that day with my radio show, and he gave me the t-shirt. So I don't want to mess this up. Now, to show you how long I've been trying to record this, I was going to record it like the last week of December. And I had this whole like Santa kind of crazy outfit that I was going to record it in. I'll try to remember, put a picture in. So I've been trying to record this thing for a long time, but all that, let's move on. Let's wrap this up. This has been a great campaign, a lot of fun, and I appreciate all the comments and everything that I've gotten. So let's get to, I'm going to put on my +2 spectacles, viewer feedback and or rules clarification. And let's just dig right in to what we have here. Oh, you like that? See, I just turned, see, it gets all, look, whoop. See, that's what happens when you turn on or enable a browser window. Wow. And that's also, that's, I don't know if I mentioned before, that's usually why I don't wear my glasses, because I have to do like this or tilt or something. So there isn't screen glare, even without that, you get a lot of screen glare. So that's why during most of my videos, I'm like, what? Anyway, okay. So here we go. Let's go through some viewer feedback, then we'll do rules clarification, and then we'll dig into what happened at the end of the campaign. There may have been deaths. There may have been player character deaths. Let's see. Okay, so first of all, Dylan M. wrote and said, just in time. And he was talking about video 82, which I did, I guess, a couple months ago, because this is 2 months ago. Says, just in time. Thanks for posting these. Can't wait for the rest of the series. Very helpful to listen to experience with the end game of this campaign. And I said, hey, you're welcome, Dylan. Next video should wrap Out of the Abyss. Okay. Anders Rolig said, I am finished. So he's actually finished his campaign of Out of the Abyss. He said, glad to see you are as well. I am. I've been finished for a while. I just got to get this video recorded. I guess I am writing a longer post next vid. And please do a notes 84 with viewer feedback, even though 83 will be the end of the campaign. That's not a bad idea, but it's just a time thing. I've already got another campaign I'm trying to get to, so maybe I could roll viewer feedback from this video into the first video of that campaign. But we'll see. I mean, if I get enough feedback to justify another video just for the viewer feedback from this video, then perhaps, but I'll try to get out there one way or the other. It's just a time thing. I mean, I've got like 2 or 3 D&D book reviews I haven't been able to get to, even though I've got the notes down. It's just a matter of time. So not that it's not a good idea. Sonic Halo said, glad this is still here. Can't wait to see the Tomb of Annihilation from you. From what I have heard, it really helps to print out or make maps of level 5 of the tomb since the whole floor moves with gears. So we have started another campaign. It may or may not be Tomb of Annihilation or Tomb of Annihilation. We'll find out soon. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't, as far as Tomb of Annihilation level 5, I haven't gotten there, level 5 of the tomb. If I, even reading through the book, whether I'm running it or not. So, but thanks for the tip, and hopefully that'll help other people listening. Okay, James Swanson said, it's so cool to see you're finishing it up, and I can't wait to hear how it ends. Did you have a long denouement? I'm sure I'm saying that. I know what he's saying. Denouement after the finale, or did you wrap it up in just a few sentences? We did an epilogue, which I'll include in this video. On the one hand, some players might just want action, so they're fine with a quick ending. But on the other hand, I can imagine others want a character conclusion, with almost a whole session dedicated to their happily ever after. So what we did, I think a campaign of this length with as many crazy things happening deserves an epilogue. Like, okay, what happened after? And so we did that. But what I did, so that we could keep moving and play some other stuff, was we did it all via our Facebook group. But I'll give you a rundown of what we did in this video. Okay. Let's see. Keep looking for 82. Bruno Grandi said, I've just started watching this series. I'm willing to start DMing Out of the Abyss with my group, and I'm very glad you guys finished this campaign. It's very enlightening to read the chapters and see how you manage your players through them. Congrats for the great job, man. Hoping you start Tomb of Annihilation soon. Will it be Tomb of Annihilation? It's another one of my favorite adventures of D&D 5e. See you soon. And I said, hey, I'm glad it was helpful. So yeah, there's more coming, including the final installment of Out of the Abyss. Sparrowhawk the Kind said, I'm so glad I discovered your series a year ago when I started running this campaign. Our parties have taken wildly different courses, and that can definitely happen with Out of the Abyss. It's not a linear railroaded adventure by any means, or a campaign, but they've reached the City of Spiders about the same time. I've lost count the amount of times little cool tweaks and improved bits you've shared have enhanced my narrative and strengthened the roleplay experience. Thanks for sharing. And that feedback, that kind of feedback right there, is why I keep doing this. I've shared that a lot before. People really seem to get some benefit out of these videos. I said, man, thanks for sharing how it's helped your game, and I love hearing stuff like that. And I do, legitimately, a lot of people say that feedback doesn't matter to creators or whatever. In this case, the sheer amount of feedback on, thanks, this has helped my game, or this has been helpful, or whatever, is what has kept me going with it. Okay, let's see if there's anything else as far as actual, fire. Oh, and Sparrowhawk, I wanted to ask you before I move on, is that a reference to Earthsea? I actually just started reading Earthsea for the first time in all my geek years, which surprises me because it's really good, and I've always heard good things about it. But I think I'm about halfway through Wizard of Earthsea, and I've really been enjoying it. So I'm assuming, but I could be wrong, that Sparrowhawk the Kind, your username, is a reference to Earthsea. So, all right, let's see here. Firelord Singer, wow, what a journey. Hopefully the end comes soon. Yes, the end is here, Firelord. Okay, Wannabe, spelled B-E-E. Hey, Shane, I know the video is old, but I need help as a DM. I'm running the 3rd session of Out of the Abyss this weekend, and currently the party is at Blending Stone. So far, after a month of travel and going to the Oozing Temple at level 2. The NPCs have been nothing but useful when they can to the party, but I find my players treating them like slaves. Should I have the NPCs leave the party? And she, Wannabe, I don't know if she, they said Eldith, the twins, Ront are dead so far. Wow, Eldith was such a great character in our campaign, but every group's going to be different. It's going to unfold differently. So they should leave the party, those that are not already dead, or continue to be bullied and pushed around by the PCs. I'm divided on leaving the players on their own, as most of them end up drunk by the end of the game and start making bad decisions that don't fit their characters. But I have been loving this series so far. Keep up the good work. Okay, so wannabe, there's a couple of different things in here that I'll address. Um, One is depending on the personality of the NPCs, and the book and some of the documents and stuff I've shared that I found out there give a pretty good idea of what different PCs or NPCs are like. Um, I would say yes, definitely. Some of them will leave if that's how the players are treating them. As soon as they think it's safe for them to do so. I mean, right now they want the strength in numbers, but you get to Blending Stone, maybe things change. Uh, some of the NPCs might not want to leave if being treated like that is something they expect or are used to. I don't have the list of all the NPCs in front of me, but I could think of Ront might actually respond to being dominated. Whoever's stronger than him, he'll respond to. But there'll be a couple of fights where he will challenge that. But if he gets completely dominated, he'd probably stick around, even though he doesn't like it. He respects the superior strength. I can't remember off the top of my head the DM, or not the DM, the character that was is really a serial killer, has gone crazy and is a serial killer. The drow that is infected with spores will probably stick around because he has ulterior motives because of the spores, that kind of thing. But the like Eldith would probably not stick around for that. She will probably try to talk and get things straightened out, and if it keeps on, Eldith would probably split. Jimjar would probably split sooner or later. The two were-rats, Sverfneblum, which they're already dead, but I would imagine they would split. That's just kind of my thoughts. Now, so I definitely and I went on to say that for both in-game behavior, treating the NPCs like slaves, right, and out-of-game behavior, drinking out of game to the point where it affects the game negatively, I would say just let the behavior of the players lead to natural consequences. As DM, you want to tell a fun story, but if they want to play foolishly, that's their prerogative, and you're not obligated to protect them from that. And I've more than once in my campaigns, not just this one, we also did this in White Plume Mountain, but in Out of the Abyss, more than once, my philosophy is, look, I'm not going to tell you you're not going to do that. And I might even out of character say, are you sure you want to do that? But if they proceed, then I just let the consequences take place. And if they don't like that, like I said, you're not there to just DM at their whim, and I personally, now this is just me. I don't like to game when alcohol is involved. For reasons like this. Now there are some groups out there where people will have like a beer, maybe two, and it doesn't really affect anything. But you also get tables where either it just keeps going, or you have that one player who always ends up idiotic by the end of the night. And that's not fun for me. In fact, it's very frustrating. So I personally, like the games I run, except in maybe extremely rare circumstances, say it's like a Thanksgiving or Christmas, and some of us together at somebody's house, and they're wanting to, hey Shane, would you run a game or something like that? And there's alcohol there. I'm not going to be absolutely not alcohol, but an ongoing campaign or something like that, or even certain one shots, I just don't want it there. And again, having said that, there are plenty of people that can drink a beer or two, and it's not a problem, But again, refer back to the social compact. There is a social compact, written or unwritten. We're all at this table to have fun. And if you're going to get boozed up, it's fun for you, but it's not fun for everybody else usually. Every now and then you'll be like, yeah, I remember that time so-and-so got drunk. It was really funny. But if it's happening all the time, that's a problem, in my opinion. As DM, run it or handle it as you see fit. But ultimately, let the consequences of their actions, whether they were drunk or not, Well, you can't, man, you can't. I was drunk. Come on, my character. No, man, you decided to get drunk at the table and have your character act like that. You own what happened. That's my take on it. Your mileage may vary. All right. Let's see if there's anything else. Ashley Chernigal, or Chernugal perhaps, just today, while I'm working on my notes for this video, said, hey, are you still working on the finale? And I said, yes, today, even as I type. So now I've got some other stuff here, some viewer feedback and stuff that I printed out. Okay, so this, man, where did this come from? Oh, this was actually sent in as a channel comment, not a video comment. So I made sure to print this out. Let's see. No, this actually came in on my Facebook page, the Shane Plays Facebook page. That's right. So I printed it out. Aaron Clark wrote, just bumped into your YouTube channel late last night. It's great to see awesome RPG related content produced by someone else in Little Rock. And at first I said, hey man, thanks for reaching out. You know, what content do you make? And Aaron was like, oh, I'm sorry, I confused you. I don't make any content. It's just cool to see somebody in Little Rock making content. So cool, Aaron, man, I appreciate you reaching out. And I said I would give you a shout out. So Aaron Clark, here's your shout out, and thanks for reaching out to me, buddy. I also got a question, a viewer feedback question via the Shane Plays page. Now I have a Shane Plays Facebook page. I think it's Facebook.com/Go Shane Plays. I would love it if people, you know, liked that. That helps me. You know, I don't ask for a lot. I don't beg for Patreon and this, that, and the other. I'll mention Patreon every now and then for my radio show. But, you know, likes on the video, sharing content, liking my Facebook page, liking my Twitter at Shane Plays, all that helps me. So if you want to help, that helps. Of course, you don't have to. So I'm not here to guilt anybody. So Zach sent this in via my Facebook page. There's nothing wrong with contacting me on Facebook. That's totally cool. I will say it's probably better for specific campaign or video questions to do it as a comment on the YouTube video. One, it keeps it all together and I see it in my comments and hopefully won't forget to address it. And two, if you comment on Facebook and I don't get back in a couple of days, Facebook will negatively ding me like, you haven't responded in a certain amount of time. Having said that, if you want to contact me through Facebook message on my Facebook page, go right ahead. So, all right. So Zach Arbuckle said, I just realized the best thing ever. Somehow or another, all of the prisoners and my PCs just escaped from the keep without any deaths. I'm assuming he means Velkenvelv. I'm almost positive he means Velkenvelv. Yeah, they severed the rope bridge. And this is like chapter 1 or chapter 2 stuff, very beginning of the campaign. They severed the rope bridge, and through healing and luck, everyone made it past the spiders and down the rope. I start my next session with them entering the pitch black tunnels after making it past the ooze. And he put this in all caps. He said, no one, I don't know if that'll pick up or not. It says, no one grabbed any torches and all my PCs don't have dark vision. How should I approach this? I want to have some fun. So what I said was, I would probably use it for a session or two, you know, keep it like everyone's stumbling around. It's all crazy, to create some anxiety with the darkness, but then let them find some sort of light sources. You know, remember like even some of the, fungus and whatnot in the abyss and in the Underdark can produce light. You don't want to drag it out too long or your players will get frustrated and bored. What works for a session or two may not continue to work. You know, this is really neat, but then it's like, really, are we still doing this? Right. There's also a good opportunity for the crazy NPC to accomplish his first murder, which will add to the anxiety. Man, I should have that right in front of me and I don't like, hold on a second. I think I do actually. This is my campaign folder, which I'm about to have to replace because it's gotten pretty beat up. Bupido. I'm pretty sure Bupido is the crazy NPC that is killing people to make sacrifices. Prince Darendel is a male Quaggoth that thinks he's a polymorphed elf, I think. High elf, maybe? Drow. So let's see here. To kind of go back over the NPCs, Bupido will probably kill somebody if it's darkness for a couple of sessions. That would work to his advantage. But going back to the previous question about, who would stay and who would leave if the PCs are treating them horribly like slaves, Bupido will stick around just to kill people. Shushar will probably stick around because he's like an easygoing, my road is peace kind of guy, but he still wants, if he thinks that sticking with them will get him back to Kuatoa, or not Kuatoa, the lakeside city where Demogorgon first roses. Jimjar will not stick around forever. And in fact, the way I did Jimjar, this could very much work to their detriment. I'll talk about that later in the video. Prince Darendel will eventually not put up with it because, remember, he's royalty, he thinks. Stool put up with it because he's just a little kiddo and he doesn't know what else to do, even though he doesn't like it. Ront would eventually, bow to the authority, whether he liked it or not. Eldith wouldn't put up with it. Topsy and Turvy would put up with it only until they could get back or sneak away. And then that drow would stick around. Sereth, Kakarot, the male drow would stick around probably because it would help his goals being fungus infected and all that. So, and then I said probably have at least one. We're back to the question from Zach Arbuckle. They don't have torches. Not everybody has dark vision. Probably have at least one combat that isn't deadly, just so they get the experience of fighting blind, which will make them even more eager to find a light source. Last, make sure to chapter study 2 if you haven't already. There's a lot of description of the Underdark ecology. Not every area is pitch black, and there are a variety of fungi with different properties. So there you go. That's all the viewer feedback that I have to get feedback on. I did want, there was one that I wanted to point out I forgot to earlier. I don't like to get negative on this show or in these videos or whatever, but I did have kind of a negative comment that I just want to point out to kind of make an example of comments that really aren't going to help anything. So, and I usually, people can be negative or attack or whatever, and I'm fine. I mean, they're not putting bread on my table, and, I don't know them personally, so whatever. They don't have to like my stuff. But I got a comment on my Greyhawk Initiative video where I went through this. Mike Merles a while back came up with this optional playtest, just goofing around thing on Unearthed Arcana. I think it was on Unearthed Arcana. It may have been just his own thoughts, called Greyhawk Initiative, which is a different style of initiative for the game. I did a video on how it works. And Helgamon Ratbone about a week ago said, "Holy F, over 5 minutes in and still no explanation of what it is. F your video, I'm done." And so here's what I said. I said, personally, I feel my channel is better off without you. Thanks for letting me know. So really, Helgamon Ratbone, go take a long walk off a short pier because whatever, dude. And that's enough for that. So just letting the people out there watching, if you think that comments like that are going to change anything, or like he's right, I'm going to go completely redo my video to meet his little entitled butt. No, it just doesn't work that way. So, and I usually don't mind if like, man, this video sucks, or this is terrible, or this isn't what I was looking for. But to drop, an F-bomb, to F my video, and I'm just later, dude, I'm actually so much better off without you in my life. So just wanted to throw that out there. So, okay. So now we're going to get into some rules clarifications and rules notes. And then after that, we'll get into the recap of what happened, at the end of the campaign, which I know everybody is just really, really excited to get to. Okay, so let's go through some rules, clarifications, and notes. These will all apply to stuff that happened, during these last few sessions. So one of the things that you'll want to know about is the Guards and Wards spell. And when you're in the Tower of Sorcerer, which is where in Minzo Baranzan, where the grimoire is located. Gromp's outer and inner sanctum is in the Tower of Sorcerer, and etc. And you're given a password to get in, if that's how your players got in. But that changes every hour. So if you don't know the password after that, then you will trigger guards and alarms, or guards and wards, throughout the entire tower. And this is a pretty crazy spell. So just make sure that you're aware of how this thing works. One is on page 248 in the player's handbook. Now, normally it says you create a ward that protects up to 2,500 square feet of floor space, but for the purposes of the campaign, this will fill the entire Tower of Sorcerer, and it creates the following effects within the warded area. So if you don't know the password, or if you're not supposed to be in the tower and this activates, like everybody that's supposed to be there, it doesn't affect them, but it will affect the players. So corridors, fog fills all the warded corridors, making them heavily obscured. In addition, at each intersection or branching passage, anywhere that offers a choice of direction, there's 50% chance that a creature other than you will believe it is going in the opposite direction from the one it chooses. Doors. All doors are magically locked as if sealed by arcane lock. In addition, you can cover up to 10 doors with illusion, like the minor illusion spell, to make them appear as plain sections of wall. Stairs. Webs fill all stairs in the warded area from the top to the bottom as the web spell. The strands regrow in 10 minutes if they are burned or torn away while guards and wards last. Other spell effects. You can place your choice of one of the following magical effects within the warded area. You can put dancing lights in 4 corridors. You can place magic mouth in 2 locations. You can put a stinking cloud in 2 locations. You can put a gust of wind, a constant gust of wind in 1 corridor room. Put a suggestion in 1 location. So the whole warded area radiates magic, and a spell magic cast on a special effect, if successful, removes only that effect. You can create a permanently guarded and warded structure by casting a spell there every day for 1 year. So just keep that in mind. That could activate in the Tower of Sorcerer, and it did in fact activate on my players, because after the first hour, they were in there longer than an hour getting the grimoire. And so check this out. You see that it's got a bunny on it? My grandmother gave me that cup a long time. I did this get hopping and make that video. Everybody's waiting on it, so there you go. Anyway, it was longer than an hour they were in there to get the grimoire. So when they left the inner and outer sanctum and stepped back out into the regular tower, ding-a-ling, guards and wards. So and there was an interesting way they got out of it, which I'll talk about, later in the video. It was some good emergent role playing and narrative events. So another rules thing, and this is more of like just kind of a role playing D&D trivia that might be interesting for you to know. It came up, I can't remember. We were talking with my players, and I was kind of joking around with them, and they were telling me something like really powerful their character was going to do, and kind of, overriding my authority as a DM. And it was all joking, right? And so I started talking about blue bolts. And there used to be this thing, and I guess maybe it still happens, but I think it was more in the old school gaming, where if a player annoyed the DM enough, now I've never done this. Even joking around, I've never really done this. I think this player, joking around, I had their character float up out of the air and then turn up upside down. But even that didn't really happen in game. We're just goofing around. But there used to be this thing called a blue bolt, and a bolt from the blue. That's like saying something just happened out of the blue, completely unexpected, bolt from the blue. Well, there's this concept, especially in old school RPG gaming, tabletop RPG gaming, called the blue bolt. And that is if you annoy the DM or GM enough, they will bam, blue bolt you, and a bolt of lightning or whatever comes out of the sky, and boom, your character's dead and you're just gone. And it's like the ultimate exercise of DM, GM authority and fiat. Now, today's players are probably not going to react well to that, because a lot of them are blossoming flowers and look at all this time and effort I put into my character. But I know that sounds like an insult. It's not. It's just a different style of play. That's not how I play, but that's how other people play, and it's growing the hobby so good. But, be aware that not every DM is going to be the same, and especially if you're playing like in a one-shot or at a tournament or around a bunch of old school players, you could get blue bolted if you're too annoying to the DM. Doesn't happen very often, but it can happen. So that was just a little bit of trivia. Thought was interesting to share. Now, another rules thing that happened, there is in the Tower of Sorcerer the possibility that one of your players could get trapped in a little diamond by activating the imprisonment spell. So that player was rescued from it in our campaign by shattering the diamond and other things. And so, of course, they said, can I get some diamond dust because the diamond was shattered, because they would either want to sell it or use it for spell components or whatever. So I did a little bit of research on this, and it was shattered, not ground to dust, is eventually what I came up, because dust is different from just shattering something. Now, it could be further ground up to dust if desired. Diamond is actually, in the right circumstances, pretty breakable. In the right circumstances. They're hard, but they're brittle. So you could, if one of my players said, well, I want to take a mortar and pestle or whatever and ground up the remaining, then I'd be like, okay, but as it is just shattered, it's not diamond dust. Also, diamond dust is not worth as much as a whole diamond. So those were just kind of some of the things that I came up with while researching that. I'd probably make it like, if you had a diamond that was worth X and somebody made diamond dust out of it, just off the top of my head, I'd probably make it worth about a third of what the diamond would be worth. Probably worth more as a spell component. Now, I would let it be used probably to substitute for spells that need a diamond, unless it specifically says, an unharmed, beautiful, perfect diamond or something like that. So, little insight into how I do things. That's one of the things I like to do with these videos, is just give you insight into how I, as a DM, run things. That doesn't mean that you have to run things this way. Let's see if there's any other rules things. La da 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 da. Rules. Okay, here's some more rules. Demogorgon in the final battle. We looked some stuff up, and I had to look some stuff up, and then I was like, how tall is Demogorgon and all that. So by the book, Demogorgon is 18 feet tall. So he's tall, but he's not like Godzilla. I always, especially with the cover of the book and all that, let me find it. I just always picture him, like kind of Godzilla, but he's not. He's big, but he's not. He's like Goliath big, not Godzilla big. He's got those creepy tentacles and two baboon heads. So, anyway, let me get back. Got off on a tangent in my head. So that's one thing. Another thing is the book at the end in the fight with Demogorgon. The book recommends, if needed, if you think you need to do this for your party, to reduce Demogorgon's stats, because more than likely, as is the case with happened in my campaign, he just came out of a fight with like 3 other demon lords. So let's go to page 219 in the book, Out of the Abyss. And it says, Demogorgon has been wounded during the fight, giving the characters an edge in the battle to come. And so it recommends the following penalties. Demogorgon has 290 hit points remaining and can't regain hit points due to the disruptive nature of Vizeran's Fairzaress empowered ritual. He has only 1 use of legendary resistance remaining for the day. His Feeble Mind innate spell is expended, as are all but 1 use each of Dispel Magic, Fear, and Telekinesis. With all the other demon lords banished back to the Abyss, Demogorgon becomes the focus of the disruptive power of Vizeran's ritual. This imposes a -5 penalties, attack rolls, ability checks, and saving throws. Even in his weakened state, the demon lord remains a terrifying opponent, attacking the adventurers in a howling fury as the battle is performed. Also, it says on page 219, there's a little sidebar that says if you prefer, a demon lord other than Demogorgon can be the victor and the final foe of the campaign. This is particularly appropriate if the adventurers earn the ire of a specific demon lord during the adventure. Alternately, one or more of the characters' backgrounds might be tied to a particular demon lord. In my case, there was no reason not to use Demogorgon. But the point that I'm about to make here, one is remember, there's some suggestions for reduced stats, which my group probably needed it because they were much lower level than the book probably anticipated they would be. And the group wasn't as big as it had been. So, I used most, if not all of those deductions. But the point is, normally, Demogorgon and his stats are on page... let me find it here. His stats are on page 236 and 237 in Out of the Abyss. Normally, Demogorgon is challenge 26, is a CR 26, right? So, if I reduce Demogorgon by all those ways, like the book suggests, what's the new CR for calculating experience should the players be successful? That would have been real nice if the book included it. There's just multiple areas where this book leaves out stuff to me that is glaringly obvious should be in there. And this is another one of those. I'm not saying it's a fun adventure, as I've said many times, but sometimes the editing and the final polish seem a little bit lacking. And there's been several times in these videos where I've pointed out. Overall, though, still very fun. But I did want to point out that if you go to page 273 in the Dungeon Master's Guide, there's a whole section on creating or modifying monsters and how to adjust challenge rating. Now, in order to do this, you would have to go through and literally build Demogorgon step by step by those rules to figure out, if you pull stuff out, how does it affect CR? And I just didn't do that. I think I ended up just making the CR like 19 or 20 because it did pull quite a bit of his powers out. But in his hit points and ability to regenerate and all this other stuff. -5 to hit on everything and -5 on ability checks and saving throws and all. It's a pretty big deal. So I think I just made like CR 19, if I remember. I tried to find my experience log, and I've either put it in a different folder for posterity or thrown it away, which would be terrible, but oh well. Anyway, so just keep that in mind when it comes to Demogorgon. Also, during the big final showdown, my Warlock player, that their character's a Warlock, said, can my patron help? And I said, does your player character have that ability? And, they're like, looked in the rules and they're like, no. And I'm like, well, then no, your patron can't help. You can't just suddenly invent abilities. They're a Warlock, right? Fair enough. They have a powerful patron. It's fair to ask, well, can my patron help? Because, ridiculous stuff could happen. I could for some reason decide that their patron gets involved. But just as hey, I want to think real hard and my patron's suddenly helping, that just wasn't an ability of that Warlock at their level. Possibly something like that comes later. I'm not intimately familiar with the Warlock class. But yeah, that was my answer was, is it one of your abilities? And they're like, no. And I'm like, well, then no. That's how it works. You have a class that has certain abilities. So every now and then, really rare circumstances, they could say, I beseech my patron and I might say, okay, and if they make a good case and it's great for the story and compelling and fun and I like the chaos of it or whatever, I might give a roll. But even then the chance could be really low, like, 10 or under on a D100, probably a 1. Like you got to roll like 100 on a D100 or a 90 and above or something like that, 95 and above. So there you go. Now, here's an interesting one that I haven't had the chance to dig into this rule question as much as I wanted to. I've kind of looked at it a couple of times. So what I'm going to do with this is kind of give you insight on how I try to come up with if I don't just wave a ruling on the spot and keep going to keep things going. If I say, okay, let me stop and think about that, either during the game or after, here's a little insight onto how I do it. So the question that came up was, does confusion cause a target to lose concentration? So a character, NPC or otherwise, player character, NPC, whatever, has a spell or an effect or whatever on somebody, on a target that requires concentration to keep it active. But they fall under the effect of a confusion spell. So common sense says they should lose concentration, right? But remember, this is a game with a game engine and a set of rules. So common sense isn't always the way the rules are going to interact. So the way to figure that out, or at least do your best as interpreting it, is to look up these effects and statuses and do your best to determine how they would interact. If there's not a rule right off the bat that would indicate, or ruling already out there, like this is what happens. So let's go take a look. First thing I'm going to do is probably, if my books are handy, I'm going to look up confusion, and I'm going to the effect confusion, the status, and I'm going to look up concentration. I'm going to look those two things up. So let's do that. Let's get the player's handbook. Now, most of you, and sometimes I will too, will just immediately go to the internet and search, does confusion cancel concentration? And there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. I like to, when possible, look it up myself and then possibly see how my interpretation compares up to what other people are doing. But it's also good to be familiar with the rules and to understand the concept of how does this interact with that? What takes precedence? That kind of thing. So first thing I'm going to do is see if I can look up concentration, which is on 203 and 204 of the player's handbook. I'm looking in the index. So 203, 204 for concentration. Okay. Okay. You lose. Okay. It says concentration. This starts on page 203. It says you lose. It says some spells require you to maintain concentration in order to keep their magic active. If you lose concentration, such a spell ends. If a spell must be maintained with concentration, that fact appears in its duration entry, and the spell specifies how long you can concentrate on it. You can end concentration at any time, and there's no action required. Normal activity, such as moving and attacking, doesn't interfere with concentration. The following factors can break concentration. Casting another spell that requires concentration. Okay? That doesn't apply here. Taking damage. Whenever you take damage while you're concentrating on a spell, you must make a Constitution saving throw, etc., etc. That doesn't apply here. They've gotten confused. They haven't taken damage. Being incapacitated or killed. You lose concentration on a spell if you are incapacitated or if you die. Okay. Now, the DM might also decide that certain environmental phenomena, such as a wave crashing over you while you're on a storm-tossed ship, require you to succeed on a DC 10 Constitution saving throw to maintain the concentration on a spell. So that's concentration, right? Okay. Now, for the most part, no, confusion would not break concentration by that, but it does allow it in and say, hey, the DM can allow certain environmental factors. Now, environmental factors is talking more like what's happening in the physical environment. But, as DM, you could say, well, confusion, how would you concentrate if you're confused, right? So let's go further. So let us go to, let's look up conditions, not statuses, but conditions. All right, so let's go back to conditions 290 to 292. Okay, and this will be on most of your DM screens and that kind of thing, but so confused is not actually confused is not actually a condition. So now we have to go look up the confusion spell. Okay, this may seem like a lot of work, but if you want to be as fair as possible to your players, this is what I recommend. And like I said, sometimes just make a ruling in the middle of the game and move on, and make a note to look it up later, and then later come back and say, hey, if this ever happens again, here's how we're going to do it, and here's why. Most players will be cool as long as you're open with why you're making your decisions, or maybe changing a decision later for future reference. Confusion. All right. This spell assaults and twists creatures' minds. This is on page 224 of the Player's Handbook. So it spawns delusions and provoking uncontrolled action. Each creature in a 10-foot radius sphere centered on a point you choose within range must succeed on a wisdom saving throw when you cast the spell or be affected by it. An affected target can't take reactions and must roll a d10 at the start of each of its turns to determine its behavior at that turn. And I mean, it could have you moving in a random direction, it could have you not moving or taking actions this turn. Creature uses its action to make a melee attack, or the creature can act and move normally. So I think what I would do as DM, because each round that you're confused, you roll a d10, and based on that d10 roll, it's one of those, anywhere from use all of your movement to run to creature can act and move normally. I think I would say that the only result that would allow them to keep their concentration up would be the creature can move and act normally, which would be a roll of 9 to 10 on the d10. So if they kept rolling that, they would keep fine, and they could keep their concentration up on that spell. Now, if they rolled any other result, which would be rolling a 1 through 8, that's got 3 other effects, concentration is broken, and I would say they wouldn't suddenly get it back if on a subsequent round they rolled a 9 or a 10 and it says creature can act and move normally. That's how I would rule it. Okay? Now, a player or another DM interpreting these rules will say, it never says concentration is broken, so you keep your concentration up. So there you go. That's a little bit of insight into how I personally, try to interpret stuff. See if there's any other rules here. And I think that's it. So we are about to get into the actual recap of what happened in the final sessions of my Out of the Abyss campaign. Boom, boom, boom. Let me take off my +2 glasses of viewer feedback and or rules clarification, and we will dig in. Ooh, back into the Underdark. It's pretty dangerous down here. Maybe we can... And I hear Demogorgon and some other demon lords are stomping around, so I got some weapons here to help out. So I got the... got my trusty sword. This is my DM sword that I pull out and put on the table to let the players know things are about to get serious. But this is pretty serious, so maybe I need to dual wield. What do you think? But this is Demogorgon we're talking about, so yeah. That was kind of loud. Okay, let's see here. Up, this'll work. Lightsaber. Freaking Luke forgot. I always tell him, charge your lightsaber. It's even got a little USB port in it now. But Luke, no, he knows everything. Got a little Jedi temple. So anyway, Luke. All right, so man, that's loud. Okay. Ooh, this will be sweet. Oh yeah, double-bladed lightsaber action, right? Oop, hold on a second. Oh, things are getting kind of crazy here in Shane Playsville. Oh, ow! Double-bladed. Hey, but who am I kidding? I'll kill myself with this thing. Yeah, so... ow. Yep, so, yeah, it's kind of loud there too. Oh. Oh. Yeah, baby.
The Rifleman. Starring Chuck Connors.
Now we're talking. Demogorgon. Ooh. There he is, right? This gun. Oh, no. Hey, I'm the DM. I'm the DM. I'm DM. It's the party. It's the party that's your problem. Okay, DM. Cool. Cool. All right, Gorgie. All right, can I? No, I wasn't pulling this back up. Okay, we'll just get rid of that. So, wow. I'm a little nervous because this last stuff is pretty crazy, but here we go. Okay, jumping right back in. A couple of, one of the things that I was like, what does this Dark Heart Talisman even look like? So, and even though it's mentioned a lot, again, where they describe it to me is kind of a weird place to describe it. Not the first place I'd look. Like I said, the organization on this book is a little strange, but anyway, go to page 189 in Out of the Abyss, and that's where you can find the description on the Dark Heart Talisman. And let's see here. Yeah, and I think it's under the placing the Dark Heart on page 189. It says it looks and feels like a 5-pound black heart carved of black stone. It's imbued with arcane and fiendish power, and it acts as a beacon when Vizeran's ritual is performed, drawing all demons presently loose in the Underdark. Not just demon lords, all demons. It radiates fate conjuration magic even before it's activated, but it's primarily a focus for the power of the ritual rather than the source of the power itself. So that's what it looks like, feels like, all that stuff. All right. So this is again where this adventure campaign, whatever, is a little bit disorganized. So another question I had is like, can it be created without the grimoire? And what I mean by that is the grimoire actually necessary to create the talisman, or is it necessary for the ritual that activates the craziness that attracts the demons and the demon lords? So if you follow the book's order, the PCs will leave the talisman in Menzoberranzan before they do the fetid wedding, which is where they get probably the Tamask mushrooms that are necessary to make the talisman, which to me makes no sense. So again, I don't know am I misunderstanding something, or is it just bad organization, bad final polish, bad final proofreading, or poor proofreading or whatever on behalf of the designers. So because the way that I did it and the way that some others have done it is they went to the fetid wedding before they went to the City of Spiders. Because the way the book has it, you go to the City of Spiders, which is Menzoberranzan, get the grimoire, then you go to the fetid wedding. Then it's almost like you go back to the City of Spiders, or maybe I don't know. It's weird. So, but the way I did it is they went to the fetid wedding first, got the mushrooms and all the other craziness at the fetid wedding, went back to the Tower of Vengeance. The talisman was still needing to be made. I didn't have the party take the talisman to Menzoberranzan and place it and then take the grimoire and leave, which I guess ultimately that's what you're supposed to do. I don't know, the flow here feels weird. Just do it the way it seems best to you. So anyway, they, when we last left our players, our intrepid heroes, they were, they had just fought the demon that was in the inner sanctum of Gromf. They, had shattered the diamond and let their other stuff. And here's where I had to suddenly change stuff. So the battle's over. They're all in the inner sanctum. Grin is... See, I'm even confusing myself here the way all this works. But what I did was I suddenly, like, the fight's over. Like, what do we do? And Grin, the apprentice to Vizeran who went with him, suddenly produces the Dark Heart and says, I'm supposed to leave it in Gromf's sanctum. I'm supposed to leave this here. And I think I kind of did that on the fly because I kept going back and forth, like, how do I want to handle the talisman? So what this did was it created, and I purposefully did this to create a situation of where to place the talisman that had a time element. Because he's got the talisman and he has a scroll of sending. So he can notify the talisman is placed. So there was a very interesting and kind of a lengthy debate among the players. Probably the longest discussion and debate among these players for this whole campaign. Maybe one of the longest one I've ever seen them do. Like Grin is conflicted, but he doesn't want to see Menzoberranzan destroyed. The Council of Spiders that's been helping them, now they're not in on everything right now, but they weren't aware of Vizeran's plan to destroy Menzoberranzan. And, they started talking about, well, what if we go to, Neverlight Grove, which is now abandoned. And they started coming up with all these places to take the talisman. And I purposefully put that time element in there that wasn't really written into the adventure. Grin's got the talisman and he has a scroll of sending. Vizeran's going to expect some kind of contact at some point. And then, it's placed, and then they're supposed to go back, and Grin has to help Vizeran do the ritual. And I can't remember if that's in the book either, that Grin has to help, but that's how I want to do it. So, to put that time element in there was to prevent, because this whole campaign has been these huge long journeys all over the Underdark, above ground, below ground, you name it. And we'd been playing this campaign for a long time. So I didn't want now we're going to trek another 2 months here to place the talisman. Not only would Vizeran get really suspicious, but I just didn't want to do that. Now, if the players had absolutely assisted on it, of course, I wouldn't have blocked them from doing so. But I was creating a situation where that wasn't the most appealing decision. So they finally debate it, and they decide with Grin and everybody, the best thing to do is for the party to signal to or Grin to signal to Vizeran it's been placed, but in reality, take the talisman back to the Tower of Vengeance and put it somewhere there. And that's where all the demons will come in, demon lords and everything. So that's what they ultimately decide to do. And Grin doesn't feel good about it, but his loyalty and I guess love, if Drows feel like love like we do or whatever, for Menzoberranzan outweighs his loyalty to Vizeran. Like, I don't think he knew when all this was going on that was ultimately that he was going to wipe out Menzoberranzan. He wants to change Menzoberranzan. He doesn't want to destroy it. There's the Council of Spiders, mages, and him, and many others. They want to overthrow the matriarchy. They don't want to destroy Menzoberranzan. So anyway, all right. So they finally decide to do that. Now they leave the inner and outer sanctum. I just hand wave, because they have to go through that intermediate labyrinth thing, and then they have to do all these rolls to get out and back to the outer sanctum, and we've gone on before. I just hand waved out. They know what to do. So, I let them get out of that situation. Now, the thing is, so they immediately encounter these guards and wards, which I've talked about earlier in the video, and these things are a major pain. This is a real hassle and could get them killed because they can't maneuver and move as quickly as they need to, while opponents that they run across can act just fine. They're not impeded at all. So I went through a couple of levels of the guards and wards just to make the point. And, it was good role-playing, good atmosphere. But what I eventually had them do, and I think one of the random encounters that I rolled in Sorcerer worked in their favor, because you still do the random encounters. Just like when they're first going through Sorcerer. I've already talked about that. They ended up running into a drunk mage, and the encounter was one mad drow mage. It was indefinite madness. And the indefinite madness I rolled was only feels safe when drunk. So he's drunk. And they ended up talking with him. He's drunk. He's like, blah, 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 blah. They used a persuasion roll, and they got the new password out of him. And they used that password to disable the guards and wards for up to however long that next hour is going to go. So that was a wonderful spontaneous moment that came out of a random encounter that was fun and also helped me solve the problem of how do I get them to these guards and wards without, just cheating and hand waving it for them, because I want them to, have a challenge. But they also had input into it, and they used the random encounter to their advantages. Wonderful. I love moments like that in D&D as a DM, and really as a player too. So now they did encounter some drow mages on the way out, another random encounter, and that led to a fight, really close to the exit of the Tower of Sorcerer. So they got into a fight, and on the way out, they raise a commotion. So they get out into the courtyard where, the centers of learning and the Tower of Sorcerer and all that is, the religious areas, it's almost like a university with these different colleges all grouped together in this one area of Menzo Bronzan. So they get out, they raise a huge commotion, break into Arth, the mercenary group, headed up by Jarl Axel, who they encountered and had a lot of fun with. Helped them escape. They were watching. And so when they got out, all that commotion, they helped them escape. But it drew down a lot more heat, right, than expected. So Jarl Axel said because of the extra heat, he would still help them escape to the secret tunnel that will get them back to the Tower of Vengeance and honor his word there. But he said it will cost them a favor. That favor was unnamed. Just said a favor. You have to agree that you owe me a favor. And you said you could take that deal, or you could try to escape on your own, because now he has more risk than he had before. And he also said never come back to Menzo Bronzan, because it's too much of a big deal, and he's involved now. So he's like, just don't come back. So that was the deal. I'll help you escape still, but there's more risk for me now than there was before. So you owe me a favor. And he's like, individually, not the guild, you each individually will owe me a favor. And don't ever come back to Menzo Bronzan. So that was the deal, and they took it. So they left. So, and so for the next, and that was the end of a session. And next time, we just determined they would have completed at least one, long rest in that tunnel on the way back to Tower of Vengeance. That they will, at the beginning of next session, signal Vizeran that the Talisman's been placed. And then they will teleport to the Tower of Vengeance to deliver the grimoire. So they were going to rest in the secret tunnel, and then signal, hey, it's been placed, and then teleport back to the Tower of Vengeance. That was their plan for the next session. So, so that next session came, and I actually lost my notes for that session, so I had to come up with everything by memory. So I think I got most of everything, though. So they teleport back, and they immediately hide the dark heart talisman in the Cavern of Vengeance. They just find a very, best spot they could to hide it. Vizeran. Okay, now remember, they have brought Kalessa Draga back with them. That was one of the things that Jarlaxle had said, yes, you can take her with you, because she had infiltrated Menzoberranzan and was now part of their ranks and all that stuff. And he knew she was a spy, but he let it go on so that he could, keep an eye on her and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, as part of the original deal, that she could leave and go back with them, because one of the factions in Gauntlgrym said, could you try to find her? So she's there. And Vizeran is like, who is this? And was very, hey, there's a new person in the mix all of a sudden. Who is this? And, there's a lot of, this was a friend of ours that was Menzoberranzan. We got him out. But there was all this half-truths and explanations, and it's cool and all this stuff. So there was a lot of discussion, some persuasion rolls, I'm sure deception rolls, and he's kind of like, he didn't like it, but he didn't kill her because he's so close to his goal, right? He's like, okay, all right, I'm so close. So he's really fixated on that. Now, with more deception rolls and persuasion and all that, they do successfully trick Vizeran into believing they left the talisman in Gromp's inner sanctum in Menzoberranzan. So that also took like deception checks and all that. So it wasn't like Vizeran was just like, oh, I'm believing everything you say. I mean, they had to do some checks. Now, admittedly, if they had failed those checks, I would have had to work something out, because ultimately we want the ritual to go off, right? So maybe I would have had, if somehow they defeated Vizeran, maybe I would have had Grin do the ritual based on his master's notes or something. I don't know. So, so they give the Gromp's grimoire, which has been needed to cast the ritual, to Vizeran, and Grin and Vizeran retire to the tower for the ritual, which takes 9 hours by the book. A lot of that's in the Out of the Abyss adventure. So Grin is going to signal using sending, like the spell of sending or scroll or stone or something, that the ritual is almost complete, the ritual is almost complete. Whereupon the group is supposed to teleport back to Menzoberranzan. Remember, you can't teleport into and out of Menzoberranzan, but you can, like, from right outside the gates, like in the secret tunnel or whatever, you can. So they're supposed to teleport back to Menzoberranzan, but in reality, they don't. They're like, okay, we're leaving, but they're sticking around for the big final to-do. So the ritual is completed, and all these portals, the way that there's some really good description in this last chapter, which is the Against the Demon Lords, I think is the name of it. Let's see. Yeah, Against the Demon Lords, Against the Giants. That's an old classic D&D module. So there's actual like portals that open up. Yeah, it says Vizeran, assisted by Grin, if the apprentice is available. This is on page 216 of Out of the Abyss. Performs a complex ritual in the sanctum of his tower. The ritual causes the dark heart to radiate a summons throughout the Underdark using the Fair's Rest, an irresistible call drawing the demons toward it. When the ritual reaches its conclusion at the end of 9 hours, portals of Fair's Rest form. All the demons and demon lords in the Underdark are drawn through these portals, appearing together in the area around the Dark Heart Talisman. Enraged by being forcibly summoned yet again by a ritual, the demons fly into a frenzy once they see each other, beginning a battle to the death. As each demon's material form is destroyed, its essence is banished back into the abyss. The task of the adventurers is to be close at hand, but not get caught up in the battle until one demon lord is left standing, weakened and spent from the conflict. That becomes the adventurers' cue to attack and destroy the last demon lord, banishing it to the abyss if they succeed. So this is also the area that talks about reducing Demogorgon's stats and all this. There's options in here for letting some of the players play out the battle, let them actually be the demon lords. I did not do that, but sure, why not? I've done that other times. Say, hey, I'm going to let you guys fight it out, but you have to fight it out. You can't just run off or escape, or you have to fight it out. Because one time I was letting players do that, and the player like ran because I'm like, no, the point was you're supposed to be the monster. So anyway, there's some other stuff in here. There's near misses that you can randomly do every now and then. On page 218, it has stuff like explosions and flying debris and like a huge tail slamming down near you, or a stray attack from one of the demon lords or something. So they can, even if they're off to the side and trying to stay out of the battle, they can randomly have a chance, like, hey, you better make a saving throw or you're going to get hit by a tail flashing around, or there's a fireball just flew over and exploded near you, or rocks are flying around, and, so they could still take damage in the middle of this. Now, while this big fracas is occurring, one of the options is to have the rampaging lesser demons discover one or more of the characters and attack. So that's what I did, because I didn't want to stand there watching the demon battle like it's a big show, even though at various times I would kind of say, okay, here's what's happening with the demon lords battle. And it was like this big, huge kaiju monster movie, slam bang, all this crazy Godzilla all out monsters attack melee craziness. And but you still want to give them something to do, even though that's exciting. So I had, I think I had like some rocks or something attack the players. They found them, discovered them. So the players are in a decent fight, nothing that is really going to challenge them, but it gets them in a fight, gives them something to do, and it takes a little bit of their, maybe hit points, spells, magic, or whatever. So they're not 100% when they face Demogorgon or whoever's left standing either. So that's what I did. And there's rules in here for that. Under Demon Sortie on page 218, there's these great near misses, random tables you can do. And then there's, the way I did it with all of the portals is, I kind of described these crazy swirling portals and all these demons flying out, and then huge figures standing out at the end or striding a boom and looking at each other. I really tried to make it, I was like banging on the table and trying to make it this big, whoa, crazy kind of thing. So there's this big fracas going on. Now in my campaign, the 4 demon lords that were left, and it talks about this a little bit on page 218, there's a area called Rage of Demons, and it talks about which demon lords appear based on what's happened in your previous campaign. And in my campaign, it was Demogorgon, Orcas, Grazd, and Yunogu. Even though Yunogu technically could have been banished because they did the maze engine thing that got rid of Baphomet. And by the book, Baphomet and Yunogu, I think, should have banished by that. However, I wanted 4 demon lords at the end. I don't know why I just did. And so I went ahead and threw Yunogu in there. So, plus I think Yunogu's cool, a big knoll looking thing. And they've encountered Yunogu before, and I don't know, I just threw him in there. So, but here's on page 218, it says, the waiting is the hard part. Time seems to drag as you remain alert, weapons drawn. Every nerve singing with the tension in the air all around you. Finally, a swirling light begins to flare in the darkness. A barely audible humming shakes you to the core, rising and falling like a vast heartbeat in the depths. That's when I was kind of like, boom, 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 kind of doing that on a table. The glow of Fair's Rest gathers and brightens, creating swirling pools like holes torn in the air. A roar sounds from far away as shadows move in the depths of those pools of light. The demons are coming. So you have the big fracas. Now, the portals open in the Tower of Vengeance. The remaining demon lords show up and duke it out.
And we're underway. Cannon rains.
I've already said Demogorgon, Orcas, Grazd, and Yunogu. You know who? Yunogu. The party is often struck by random demon lord attacks like tails and rocks. And Kalissa Draga, the NPC they rescued from Minzo Baranzan actually goes catatonic. It's like, and just goes catatonic. And the party fights smaller demons while the biggies duke it out. We've already gone over that. Finally, it comes down to just Demogorgon and Orcas is what it came down to. And each time a demon lord is defeated, 1/4 of the demons disappear when a demon lord is defeated, because when the demon lord is defeated, the demons that report to that demon lord or whatever, they disappear too. So as the fight goes on and demon lords disappear, demons disappear too in large numbers. So eventually it's, less and less crazy in the cavern, if you can call just 1 or 2 demon lords less crazy. So at one point in the fight between Demogorgon and Orcas, I had the Tower of Vengeance actually just get knocked over. And I had this sort of random, I think I split the cavern up into 4 quadrants, and I would occasionally, when I would say, and here's an update on the Demon Lord battle, I would, when it was just Demogorgon and Orcas fighting, I think I would roll a d4, and depending on that result, then they would be in that quadrant fighting and tangling up. And I'd already determined whatever quadrant the Tower of Vengeance was in, if they ended up in that quadrant, it was getting knocked over. And that happened. So Tower of Vengeance was crucial. I wanted that to happen because that's a way to handle Vizeran so that the players don't have to fight Vizeran as well. But if you want to have the players fight Vizeran, that's fine. And if that result hadn't happened, I might have had Vizeran pop out. I don't know. But before the tower went down, I had Vizeran, there was these thunderous telepathic threats and rants and promises of dire vengeance. I mean, I will scald the skin from the bones of you and all you love and keep you alive and force you to watch. And, that'll just be the beginning of your pain. I mean, he's beyond furious at the party because he realized what's happened. But he's also fighting the demon lords from the tower. So that's how I handled Vizeran. So the players didn't have to deal with that and demon lords, because that's an archmage on top of demon lords. That's kind of crazy. So, but yeah, eventually the tower goes down and you're like, I wonder what happened to Vizeran and Grin. So, and then we got into, and so basically it came down to just Orcas and Demogorgon were left. They're fighting, and then the Tower of Vengeance goes down from them fighting, crashing into it, and then finally, Demogorgon is triumphant, and Orcas is defeated and disappears, and all of Orcas's demons disappear. But his wand, because Demogorgon was like grabbing the wand, the wand of Orcas stays and slams to the ground. In fact, I think that might even, let me see, on page 219, it says, the sounds of battle finally die away. The ground before you stained black and red with demonic blood and ichor. In the terrible grip of Demogorgon, even the mighty Orcas looks almost small. Tentacles hold the demon prince of undeath. Now this is how you finish it. You can have different demon lords be in the finale and a final demon lord be the victor, but this is assuming that it comes down to Demogorgon versus Orcas like the book says, which I liked, so I went ahead and stuck with that. Tentacles hold the demon prince of undeath in a crushing grip, slithering across the maggot-riddled flesh of the horned demon as they tighten inexorably. A strangled gasp issues from the demon lord's throat as a horrific crunching sound echoes throughout the cavern and his skull-topped wand clatters onto the floor. Demogorgon casts aside the limp form, which melts away as Orcas returns to the abyss that spawned him. The prince of demons throws back his 2 heads and roars his triumph. As he does, his nearer head turns, burning eyes raking across the battlefield. Filled with bloodlust and battle rage, the demon lord searches for another target. And of course, the other target is going to be the group, the players, most likely. So, and what I had happen at this point is I said, and his eyes light on you, and he starts coming towards you. And then I said, at that point, time freezes and you hear a familiar voice say, "Hi, guys." And that was how we ended that session. So let's talk about Jimjar, the NPC who keeps popping up in this campaign. Now, as I've mentioned before that I was probably going to do, I did in fact do this. There is a sidebar on page 217 in Out of the Abyss called Jimjar's Last Gamble. Remember, Jimjar is a deep gnome NPC that likes to gamble. It says, if the adventurers need some extra help in their final epic battle at the end of the campaign, consider the following option involving Jimjar, the deep gnome gambler they met in the Drow slave pen in chapter 1 of the adventure. Jimjar isn't at all who he appears. He is in fact a god or other great power in disguise, or the chosen of such a power, and has been watching the heroes since their first encounter in Valkenvelv. His reasons for doing this are his own, but when push comes to shove, he can give the heroes some help in overcoming the demon lords. At an opportune moment, Jimjar shows up, even returning from death if he appeared to perish earlier in the adventure, gives the characters a vote of encouragement, telling them, "I bet you can do this." Each character gains an inspiration and a blessing of wound closure, or gains inspiration and a blessing of wound closure. See other rewards in Chapter 7, Dungeon Master's Guide. He disappears afterward, potentially putting in one last appearance at the end of the adventure to hint as to his true nature before vanishing into the Underdark. Who is Jimjar really? That depends on your characters and the campaign, but one of the character's patron deities is a good possibility. He might also be a gnomish god such as Carl Glittergold or Durin Smoothhands, known tricksters and shapeshifters and foes of demons and their ilk. The more important thing is he serves as a lucky charm for the characters when they need him. This option works particularly well if the adventurers have been kind to the sometimes annoying deep gnome over the course of the campaign, earning his respect and gratitude. So I can't remember who it was. I wish I could give him credit. Way early in this video series, one of the viewers had pointed that out, and I had missed it on my initial sort of scan of the campaign, which allowed me to seed this as a possible thing to happen. And I ended up deciding I wanted that to happen, whether they needed Jimjar or not. It's just a cool reveal and a cool, fun moment to roleplay and have fun with. So let's take a look at Jimjar and some of the things that happen. If you'll remember way back in Blending Stone, when the king and queen and all the people in Blending Stone weren't quite sure what to do or whether to trust the party right before the Battle of Blending Stone, Jimjar showed up and gave this big speech, which helped sway things towards the characters. There was also a character who was swallowed, I believe, by a purple worm and killed, but I had a situation where a voice said, "Your time is not yet," and later survived, so that was Jimjar. Ironically, that character died again not long after that, and I didn't intercede. And then also those petrified angels, when they were getting the feather for the ingredients for the dark heart, one of them spoke suddenly with a voice that was kind of familiar and kind of shared important things. That was also Jimjar. Now here he is. Time has literally been frozen. Demogorgon's about to attack, and suddenly there's Jimjar. So, and he says, "Hey, I bet you could do this," and you know, and it's obvious, you know, they're like, "Okay, this isn't who we thought he was," and I think a couple of the players are even like, "Okay," like they thought maybe something was going on with Jimjar, and you know, he basically says, "I can't fight this battle for you. There's a lot riding on this. I hope you win. I'll help you where I can." And, you know, he gives inspiration. They all get an inspiration. They get the charm of wound closure. And then I gave everybody one spell slot back. So if they wanted to get, if they had used up a spell slot, they got one back if they were magic users, and I gave them Charm of Heroism. So that's what Jimjar did. Because even a depowered Demogorgon was going to be a tough fight for these guys. And as you'll learn here in a moment, 2 player characters ended up dying. One of them through their own greed, but one of them through straight up, you got juked. Or not juked, you got gushed, you got smashed, you got killed by Demogorgon. And he talks to him and is kind of clever and vague, but inspirational. And then it says, good luck. And he's gone. And it never comes right out and says who he is. But if push comes to shove, I'd probably say he was Carl Glittergold, the deity, the gnomish deity. Either that or an avatar or direct representative of. And I think that was kind of the impression I left with the characters. But the players loved that moment. I loved having that moment, so I thought it was really cool. So another thing I did once this fight, and then once he's like, I'm about out of here, and then we're gonna, unfreeze. And I think if I remember right, he took away Kalessa's catatonia. She's no longer catatonic. So he's like, when I leave, time's gonna unfreeze, and it's your fight. Do your best. Lots riding here. And one of the things I did in the fight, on the map, we had the Demogorgon, which somebody had bought one of the set of old school D&D monsters figures, and it had like an older version of Demogorgon, and we used that, for Demogorgon. But I also put like an odd shape. One of my players had like kind of a weird shaped dice, and I said, hey, could I see that? And they said, yeah. And I just put it on the map, and I didn't say what it was or anything. And I just put it there and then didn't mention it again. And that's the Wand of Orcas. So it eventually came up. Somebody said, what is that, by the way? But I just went, okay, boom. And I put it there, and I didn't say anything else. Because I wanted to make it apparent that the Wand of Orcas is there, but I didn't want to either push players towards or away from it. I wanted to be there because it's a very powerful artifact. And in fact, as you'll see, it had dire consequences for the player, or at least one player. Now, I have a note here that says I allowed greater restoration, and I don't know what I mean by that. I think maybe to uncatatonic Kalessa. So I don't know why I wrote that down. But anyway, and then, so the way we did it out, I put that odd-shaped dice on the table, right on the battle map. And I said, Kalessa, should you so choose, can be a one-use meat shield. So, like I've done in other times or NPCs around, like if you're going to take a hit, you can instead let Kalessa take that hit one time. So the fight erupts, and it's a big one. Everybody's doing their, and Demogorgon's taking licks, and the players are taking licks, and, it's a tough fight. If you run it right, even a weakened Demogorgon is going to be a very tough fight. So, and even with all of their advantages, with Jimjar and whatnot, and even with Demogorgon reduced in power, things were still kind of tipping towards Demogorgon. I think at this time, the average player level was 7 or 8. Remember, it's been a large party for a huge part of the campaign, so they didn't get as high up as level as some other groups might have. And this is still a very, very tough fight. So at one point, Grin kind of climbs out of the rubble of the tower, and he's in bad shape. I mean, he looks rough. I mean, he's like barely on his feet, and he's looking around, there's like blood, and I mean, he's beat up. He's, that hurt him really bad. And he's kind of, kind of taking a look. And when it came to his turn, I think he stuck around for a couple of rounds, but I had him do a 5th level magic missile on Demogorgon. So, I mean, it's like, and then he just, boom, and passes out. And they ended up stabilizing him and healing him. So, that push comes to shove, and they never, I think maybe they, they never see Vizeran again. Maybe they got like I'll get you and your little dog, my pretty, or something. I don't know. But anyway, the fate of Vizeran is uncertain, but you can be pretty sure that he survived somehow. He's an archmage, and, the party members are not his favorite people. In fact, just the opposite. So the fight goes, they do finally defeat Demogorgon. Boom, he goes down. One player died during the fight. And ironically, it was the player whose characters die a lot, usually through crazy, weird stuff. But this time they just straight up died. They straight up in the fight died, and they could have used Kalessa as a meat shield, and they didn't, and they died. So respect, in helping prevent the demon lord overrun of the prime material plane. And after they defeated Demogorgon, whoop, he's gone back to the abyss. No longer out of the abyss, back to the abyss. That's basically it as far as the climax. Demogorgon's been defeated. All of the demon lords have been sent back to the abyss. Lolth's great plan of getting rid of the demon lords, getting them into the prime material plane so she can take over the abyss with her baby spiderlings that will grow up into Lolths or whatever, is defeated. So this is good. Tower of Vengeance destroyed. Vizeran's whereabouts unknown. And Gryn stabilized and healed. And they completely destroyed Tower of Vengeance, which of course the players wanted to dig through to see if they could find, stuff, loot, whatever. And I basically just said, it is just absolutely destroyed. And I said, you find little pieces of this and that. You find like chemicals and potions, and you don't really find anything that is of value. I mean, I just basically said that this place got destroyed. I mean, you had demon lords rampaging all over it, falling on it, crushing on it. How Gryn survived is, a mind puzzler. They say he was somehow dead when he's like just running on willpower, throwing the magic missiles. So that's how I did it. Because I've already gotten a lot of sweet loot out of this adventure, and access to 8 archmages. If Vizeran had fled, and Gryn had still been around, Gryn would have said, this is not for you, and he would have locked up the tower and defended it. Hopefully, it wouldn't have come to that. But yeah, they didn't. I think I let the bard. I think I rolled on a trinket table, and he found like a really unusual, cool musical instrument, which was a nice fit, which was a nice random happenstance. So, but I didn't let him find, you got 7 artifacts and 20 wand of fireballs and a portal to wherever. None of that. Now, one thing that's pretty sad that happened, there was one player that plays the warlock that has always been kind of a chaotic, the chaotic neutral character, very greedy, not a rogue, but that kind of roguish thief approach to things. And eventually somebody said, what is that thing on the map? And I said, well, that's and I described the Wand of Orcas. And they were like, they're all about the Wand of Orcas. So let's see what it says in here. I think there's something in here about the Wand of Orcas. This is page 219. Says, when Orcas is defeated, he drops the Wand of Orcas. See page 7 of Dungeon Master's Guild, which falls to the ground. A party member can try to grab the wand before Demogorgon seizes it as a trophy, but any such theft draws the attention and ire of the Prince of Demons. Angry at its master's defeat, the Wand of Orcas tries to attune itself to the first willing creature other than Demogorgon that touches it. The attunement is instantaneous, allowing the wand's properties to be used during the battle. Okay, well, the battle's over by this point, by the time that this character goes over and picks it up. So then I had to default. I said, well, let me go look at the Wand of Orcas, which is on page, and let's see, it's chapter 7 of the Dungeon Master's Guide. I'm sure it's going to be on artifacts. La la la. What is this thing, eh? That is Wand of Orcas. What is it? Artifacts. Here we go. So where are we at? Where are we at? Book of Vile Darkness, Book of Exalted Deeds, Iron Hand of Vecna, Orb of Dragonkind, Sword of Wand of Orcas. Here we go. Page 227. Now, now this is what it says in the description of the Wand of Orcas. It says, any creature besides Orcas that tries to attune to the wand must make a DC 17 Constitution saving throw. On a successful save, the creature takes 10d6 necrotic damage. On a failed save, the creature dies and rises as a zombie. So, the adventure says that, in the fight with Demogorgon, it'll try to attune to a willing subject. But Demogorgon's defeated and gone, and there's just this wand laying here. So, and I think at this point, they know it's the Wand of Orcas because Orcas dropped it, and the description of this thing, I mean, it's a creepy looking thing. It's not just some basic wand. I mean, it's a creepy looking thing. Let me see if I can, I'm not going to look at this. It's nasty looking, like skulls and crazy crap. And it just, it's obvious. And like, this is a demon lord's wand, right? So again, the adventure says the Wand of Orcas tries to attune itself to the first willing creature other than Demogorgon that touches it. Tries. So I'm like, tries. Huh. It says the attunement is instantaneous, allowing the wand's properties to be used during battle. So I think what they're saying is that normally you have to attune to something like during a short rest or whatever. Long rest, short rest, whatever. Downtime. But this is like, you can attune to me automatically, but it still says tries. Which indicates to me it's like, even though it wants to attune with you to accomplish its goals, to avenge its master, Orcas, it's still not automatic. So then I defaulted to what it said in the book, DC 17 Constitution saving throw. If you make it, you still take a bunch of necrotic damage, but now you're blah, blah, blah. You got the Wand of Orcas, which is pretty kick butt. Nasty and awful, but pretty kick butt power-wise. Or if you fail and you die and you become a zombie. Well, guess what? This player failed. And they immediately died and became a zombie. And on top of that, I said this character was carrying Wave, the trident. The sentient legendary weapon trident of, Black Razor, Whelm, and Wave. This character had been carrying Wave for quite a while. This was the character who was always like, Deep Shashalis. Let me tell you about Deep Shashalis. Ha ha ha. So she was already attuned to Wave, tried to attune to an artifact that was the personal property and wand of a demon lord, failed, became a zombie. The next round, I had Wave detonate from the interaction of the energies. Wave exploded, and Whelm lost its crap. Kind of went nuts for a little while, because the three legendary weapons don't necessarily like each other, but they're bonded in a deep and fundamental way. And come to find out later, they found out that Black Razor in the vault of the guild, the Vanguard of the Eye, lost his crap for a little while. Lost its crap for a little while. And the Red Wizards of Thay, who want all three weapons, and this is a point of contention between them and the guild, are going to be none too pleased when they find out that this guild let one of them basically be destroyed, or caused one to be destroyed. So there was two PCs down, one fighting gallantly against Demogorgon, and one through greed. So, everyone's like, wow. I mean, wave just boom, detonated. And they lost, they did not. And they had to deal with the fact that their previous party member arose as a zombie and was like, blah, and they had to put the zombie down. Now, more nefarious parties might have turned the zombie into some sort of slave or something, but this one did. They put Quio, the monk that's from a tiefling monk from, that's an outsider as the background and all that, put her friend out of her misery. So, so that all happened. And eventually they decided that, they'd gotten Grin healed up and everything. And Grin, was like, wow, this is crazy how this all turned out. But I guess ultimately it was for the best. Grin ended up taking the Wand of Orcas, saying, I really think the best thing that could happen at this point is for me to disappear and to take the Wand of Orcas with me. And the remaining party members were okay with that. And in fact, they were all like, we won't tell anybody back at, Gauntlgrym about the Wand of Orcas if we can avoid it. Maybe King Bruenor, and that'll be it. I don't know. So, so they did not take the Wand of Orcas, which I'm glad about. The one player that would have wanted it, their character was dead. And Kalisa survived to be taken back to the faction that wanted her, and that was all good. And that's basically how things ended. From there, they worked their way back to Gauntlgrym and had the epilogue, which I will go over here in a moment. But there's sort of a, not exactly close friendship, but a trust between them and Grin. It's not out of the question that Grin or the Wand of Orcas couldn't come back into things before, but Grin said, I'm not even going to tell you where I'm going. I'm out of here. He wrapped the thing up in cloths and everything. He wasn't touching it directly. He's like, I'm going to go disappear for a while. I think that's the best thing to do right now. And they were like, because they said, do you want to come with us? And Grin was like, no, I'm going to go, I've got business in Menzo Bronzen, and this Wand of Orcas thing is not exactly great to be running around in the Underdark. So it's like, I'm going to go disappear. So he's like, turns into Batman of the Underdark, I guess. I don't know why I said that, Batman. But anyway, he's like, into the night. So and then from there, we basically went into the to the epilogue, which we did on Facebook. Out of the Underdark, back into the light, both metaphorically or figuratively and literally as they leave. I mean, they're still technically in the Underdark as they get to Gauntlgrym, but Gauntlgrym's also a surface kingdom. So I'm going to say finally out of the darkness, out of the abyss, back into the light. And for the epilogue, this is what we did on Facebook in between sessions. They were promised titles and property in Gauntlgrym. Not Elif, the warlock that died anyway. She was banned from Gauntlgrym following the adventure because of her previous actions at Mantle Dareth. And then there was a rogue character that is also going to end up being banned for deception because he was like, supposedly he left and a bounty hunter came looking for him, but it was really the same character. So here's the epilogue that we did on Facebook. It said, after all the long months, the travels, the horrors, the victories, the losses, the fallen, after witnessing a wealth of sights most mortals could never hope or dread to witness, even a one, the wary adventurers, some would say heroes, though they might not claim it or even believe it, returned to Gauntlgrym to much fanfare, adulation, and gratitude. And if honesty prevails, but for but a moment, surprise. Many thought despite their prowess and dedication they would fail. The odds were just too great. Some thought they were the wrong folk to depend on in the first place. Others were just glad it wasn't they who were standing in the gap. Yet even others ate, drank, and were merry for tomorrow. The demon lords would reign this world and others beside. But some believed in them and had their belief rewarded. The various beliefs held by whom may never be known to the surviving party of warriors of the Vanguard of the Eye. Lord Roaringhorn of the Harpers makes public and private gestures of his and the Harpers' appreciation. He says his chessboard is always open to a challenge from such worthies, yet, with a smile, his shield guardian is no longer forlorn. Sir Strail of the Order of the Gauntlet salutes them individually and as a group. The surviving veterans of the Gauntlet honor them and their lost comrades in a public ceremony. Remember, the Order of the Gauntlet kind of became their honor guard during the expedition. Maurista Malkin of the Emerald Enclave thanks them for their service, although her wood elf comrade Sladus Vader was never found. That's a side quest that you can look up in the book. Observant of the obvious bond between Elisor and her riding lizard Kitty, as one of the players developed a bond with her riding lizard, she lets nature be nature and gives the lizard to the cleric with her blessing, which made my player very happy. Lord Hond of the Lord's Alliance declares his organization will open official diplomatic discussions with the Guild of the Vanguard of the Eye, both for their services rendered in the battle against the Demon Lords, but also for being diligent in the quest for Kalessa Draga, who was feared lost in the line of duty. So it was the Lord's Alliance that had asked them to look for Kalessa Draga. Davra of the Zentarum coolly but professionally acknowledges the bargain was held to and says their temporary alliance is dissolved with no ill will or remaining obligations. She does seem skeptical that no items of note were discovered within the ruin of the Tower of Vengeance, but eventually lets the matter drop, either convinced or not pursuing the question any further. And I had a question at that point for the players. In parentheses, I said, or in brackets, I said, question, do you tell her or anyone from the factions of Bruenor's court about the Wand of Orcas? And the answer was basically no. And in the throne room, Eldith smiles in a sisterly fashion from the side of the king's throne, and King Bruenor has a true twinkle in his eyes, a weight removed from his shoulders they never realized was there before. My friends, he bellows, while simultaneously keeping his voice throne room proper. No easy feat, but he pulled it off. He's a king. Welcome back and well done. Lands and peoples far beyond Gauntlgrym will never truly understand what you have done for them. He pauses for a moment, measuring each of the surviving heroes. And perhaps what you have done for yourselves. He straightens. I promised holdings within my domain if you succeeded, and that royal promise still stands should any of you desire both the reward and the accompanying responsibility of being a landed noble within Gauntlgrym. There are still fights to be had for this newly reestablished kingdom within its very walls, but true lusty adventure, not these dire times of late. Ye have earned it, so speak up if that is your desire, and it shall be yours. Regardless, each of you will always be welcome guests in Gauntlgrym and may visit whenever you like, and stay for as long as you like, with one exception, which I shall get to in a moment. And so I also put in brackets, I said, note, your character should let Bruenor know whether or not they want to be a landed Gauntlgrym nobility, and if I remember right, none of the players did, surprisingly enough. He declares the names of the living and the fallen of the heroes be recorded in the Dwarven records, and a monument be created within the very halls of Gauntlgrym, telling their story with their names and precious gems and gold. But then he becomes solemn. Bruenor becomes solemn. Except, I am sorry to say, your moon elf comrade Elif. She was as brave as any, yet by my previous decree, her memory will not be by name in our histories, and no official honors will be bestowed upon her. However, the symbol of a trident shall take the place of her name, so she shall not be forgotten entirely. He frowns and looks toward Havoc. This is the player that's been in, disguise. Your name, too, shall be struck from the records, whatever it is, be it Havoc or Davy or something else entirely. You showed bravery by seeing this fight through to the end, yet ye also practiced deception within my halls and upon my own royal guard. He leans toward the man claiming the name Havoc. The royal guard in the throne room tenses imperceptibly. What have ye to say for yourself, rogue? And at that point in brackets, I said, you guys can role play this now, the character, the player in question, and the party. And there was various, role play and discussion after that. Most of them were just glad to survive and to be friends of the kingdom. I don't think any of them accepted nobility. I had to prod a couple of times. I was like, guys, we're going to do this on Facebook. We said we're going to do this on Facebook. And it got to the point where a couple of the players responded and some didn't. So I even role played it to the point on Facebook where Bruenor was like looking at him like, have I offended you in some way? Why are you not responding? You know, because like in the groups, in the sessions, I would say, okay, we're going to role play the rest of this out on Facebook. Are you okay with that? And they're like, yeah, that's great. I said, okay, you need to respond. And then I would have to kind of prod them to respond. So, and I'm having, you know, good and bad luck with Facebook. We all agreed. We went through all the different possibilities for how to have a group for communications in between sessions. We landed on Facebook, but there's still some people I'm like, I really expect you to check Facebook like once a week. You know, I don't want to be a dictator about it or a jerk, but I mean, sometimes important stuff happens on Facebook. So that's something I keep running into is communications in between sessions. Now, if I text, then that works for everybody, but not everybody's on text, believe it or not. So that's a big problem, or not a big problem, but that's why I'm doing Facebook instead of texting. Plus, I like to have that record of everything in one place, and Facebook's a great way to do that. So that's it. I mean, the Vanguard of the Eye, got massive props from Gauntlgrym, and the players were victorious. Great tales to tell. What a great campaign. It was just a lot of fun. I still don't recommend it for a first time DM, although I understand some first time DMs are playing it. That's fine. Just do your best. And main thing is just have fun. Fill out your group and just establish the best way for the group to play. And it was a blast. And for all of you that stuck through this entire video series, and I don't even know how long this video is, a long video, thank you. I'm so glad it was helpful. And so we will catch you next time.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.
Okay, yeah, there's one more thing. I did say I would announce what the next campaign is, and I almost went with Waterdeep Dragon Heist, which is a 1 through 5 level adventure, and then from there to go into Tomb of Annihilation after they got some levels under their belt, because Tomb of Annihilation would be tough, but ultimately I just went with Tomb of Annihilation. So yes, we've already got some sessions under our belt, and look forward to the Tomb of Annihilation video series coming soon. So thanks again for watching, and we will catch you next time on Shane Plays.